lecture, we would understand the major scientific developments that happened prior to independence, and it had deeper roots with the freedom struggle in India. It is believed that the scientific satyagraha that started in India was much decades prior to the satyagraha started by Gandhiji. So let's understand some of the developments which happened. So the development starts late from 1757 and why till the time of independence. The very first development which started in 1757 was the formation of British Crown after the Battle of Plassey. So after the Battle of Plassey, East India Company laid the foundation of British Crown. Now British Crown's motive was to take more natural resources and exploit the region to expand development in the territories of Britain. So what happened? It was something contemporary to this, that in 1760 industrial revolution started in the regions of Britain, and to develop these industries they required raw material and also markets to sell their finished product. So whole story started there. Now with this idea that there was a need for development of the resources, we need to map the region. So in 1767 Survey of India was established. The idea of Survey of India was to map as much possible areas. It was in 1831 that George Everest was looking for someone who was a pioneer in the field of spherical trigonometry, and he found Radhanath Sikdar. Radhanath Sikdar was the person who actually discovered the Peak 15, which was later named as Mount Everest on the names of George Everest, and this was named by the suggestions of the then present Surveyor General, who was Andrew Scott Waugh. Later on in 1784, Asiatic Society was established. Asiatic Society came into existence in Kolkata, and the idea was till 1828 only Europeans would be elected as part of Asiatic Society. No Indian was given representation, and this was one of the reasons that sparked the feeling that there has to be a kind of resistance against these kind of oppressive things which were going on. What happened in 1787 was the Britishers under the Colonel Robert Kidd. So Colonel Robert Kidd was the person under whom the Botanical Garden was established. It was called as Calcutta Botanical Garden, and however later on it was renamed as Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Botanical Garden. This botanical garden was established in Shibpur, Havra, and the idea was Havra, Calcutta. So the idea was to have a knowledge of the botanical woods, and also this was the place which was closer to Burma from where the teak was brought, and it was mainly for the development of railway wagons. Now the whole idea of Survey of India as well as Botanical Garden was to exploit most of the natural resources, but this was very, very clear to most of the people, and most of the scientific developments that started had its origin in the regions in and surrounding the regions of then Bengal, which included the territories of Bangladesh as well, which was the East Bengal as well as the West Bengal during that time. So we have scholars like J.C. Bose, we have scholars like P.C. Ray, all of them hailing from the region. Now, in 1817, Hindu College was established. However, this Hindu College was later renamed as Presidency College, Kolkata. Now, this Presidency College, Kolkata became the hub. It became not only hub for the faculties but also for the students to have their talents. And this was one of the ripening grounds for most of the freedom struggle movement that started, mainly based on scientific grounds. As we already discussed in the Survey of India, in 1800, the Trigonometrical Survey of India was done. However, later on there was Anglo-Maratha War and Marathas were defeated. Since Marathas were defeated, the territory south of Sutlej River went in the hands of whom? It went in the hands of Britishers. As a result, a great trigonometrical survey of India was done, and this great trigonometrical survey of India covered the land till Trans-Himalayas. Since this was a successful mission, there was more ideas to think about further exploration, and the exploration of computing the height of mountains was an effort which was laid after it. So 1818 was the time when great trigonometrical survey was done. The initial trigonometrical survey, which was done only for the peninsular India, included many of the second hand instruments which were there. Now, with all the natural resources that were identified, it was necessary that these natural resources should be exploited and should be brought to the port areas from where they could reach the regions of Britain. So in 1853, the railway lines were introduced, and this was another remarkable development, because it was the development point for Britain where they could conquer more interior areas and start exploiting the resources and sending the resources to the Britain. However, when the initial locomotives were built, they were at Jamalpur in Bengal and Ajmer in Rajasthan. But the local Indians who were working there started to understand how the locomotives were made. Later on, there was a rule that was passed, and the British Parliament basically approved it, and it said that they brought in certain clauses through which no locomotive designed and developed in India could be utilized, and as a result, within a period of 1853 to 1947, it was nearly 14,400 locomotives which were imported from Britain during that time. So definitely it was the development of the industrial revolution there, and their need to sell the products in their colonies. Now, in 1857, two important remarkable developments happened. First was the establishment of University of Calcutta, which was University of Calcutta at that time. The new name is Kolkata. Now, the University of Calcutta, which was established in January, was the first multidisciplinary institute of Asia. Later on, in the month of September, there was University of Madras that was established, and University of Madras is again one of the oldest universities. So two major universities established. One was the University of Calcutta, followed by University of Madras, and both of these universities laid the grounds where scientists and scholars could develop and enhance their knowledge. In 1876, it was the brainchild of Dr. Mahendra Lal Sircar, and he was actually a doctor by profession, an allopathic doctor by profession, but he was highly influenced by one of his colleagues who was a homeopathic doctor. Initially, he did not believe in homeopathy, but later on, in one of the cases, he found that homeopathy cured the patient, and he also found that allopathy was not accessible to the ordinary people and was a costly affair. So he also found that since homeopathy has its roots in German, the origin was German, and therefore it was against the British sentiments. So with these theories in mind, and in his extra time, he came up with an association which was known as the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science in 1876. One of the major persons who was part of this Indian Association for Culture of Science was Dr. C.V. Raman. C.V. Raman was appointed as a in the finance services as a senior accountant, assistant accountant, and in his free times in the evening, he used to be part of the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science and started his zeal for physics from there itself. So this association was mainly meant to ripen the minds of Indians, specifically to develop scientific attitude and to bring in more scientific innovations. So Indian Association for Cultivation of Science was a remarkable development. In 1891, the Indian Industrial Association was established, and this was by Paramthanath Bose. P.N. Bose was basically a geologist. He was the person who identified the regions of Mayurbhanj, and his recommendations were sent to Jamshedji Tata to identify and establish TISCO, which is Tata Iron Steel Company, and Mayurbhanj was the area which was discovered and identified by Premnath Bose. He had again a controversial history where a person, Hollard, who was 10 years junior to him but had was a British origin person, was appointed as a senior person, and as a result this created a lot of reasons for against anti-British sentiments, we could say, and this was one of the reasons that we had the important role of P.N. Bose in the freedom struggle in India. So he established the Indian Industrial Association. Next to him was the idea that crystals can be used as detectors in microwave experiments, and this was laid down by Jagdish Chandra Bose, and he first patented the crystal detector in 1901. So J.C. Bose's work was again very remarkable. However, in 1895, he first demonstrated microwave transmission, and this was one of the unique discoveries of that time. However, the later credits were given to not to J.C. Bose for the discovery of microwave transmission. In 1901, as we saw, there was another development by Prafulla Chandra Ray, and Prafulla Chandra Ray established the first pharmaceutical company, which was Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceutical Works Limited. Prafulla Chandra Ray is also known for his works, that is the history of Hindu chemistry. He is known for the discovery of mercurious nitrate. He is known for the thiosulfates, the discovery of thio compounds, which is mainly the sulfur compounds. His works were mainly pertaining to synthetic inorganic chemistry, and he also devised numerous explosives, and he used to provide those to the revolutionaries. He was also called as revolutionary in grab, and one of the major sayings of Dr. Prafulla Chandra Ray was, "Science can wait, Swaraj cannot." So he was again involved deeply with the ideas that India should be liberated at the earliest. And then in 1902, Dawn Society was established. This Dawn Society was later on converted into National Council for Education. Dawn Society was established by Satish Chandra Mukherjee, again important. Then there was Association for Advancement of Scientific and Industrial Education, which was established by Jogendranath Ghosh in 1904, and that was mainly for development pertaining to scientific equipments and industrial growth. As I said, from 1902, when Dawn Society was established, in 1906 this was converted to National Council for Education, and in 1906 again Society for Promotion of Technical Education by Taraknath Palit and Neel Ratna Sarkar was established. He also established the Bengal Technical Institute. So the idea was to grow the common masses for technical growth and technical development. Mathematical Society, which was known as the Calcutta Mathematical Society, was established. The president of this society was Ashutosh Mukherjee. Now again, similar to this Mathematical Society, we also had a Chemical Society which was established, which we would come on to a while. But here, the Mathematical Society with Ashutosh Mukherjee as the president, and then the Indian Institute of Science was established in Bangalore. IISc, as it is named as still today, and it is one of the still the most premier institute of education, was established by Jamshedji Tata. Again, IISc is famous. IISc, Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, was the first institute to provide master's degree in engineering courses. So IISc, establishment of IISc by Jamshedji Tata. Also TISCO, Tata Iron and Steel, established by Jamshedji Tata. The region for the TISCO was established by Parmananath Bose, P.N. Bose, and he was one of the geologists of that time. In 1930, Vijnana Parishad was established in Allahabad. This Vijnana Parishad is one of the foundations which talked about converting scientific literatures into Indian languages, Indian regional languages as well, so that more students could get acquainted to the scientific developments which are occurring globally. So the role of Vijnana Parishad or Vijnana Bharati has been very, very important. The next was the Satyendranath Bose translation. Now Satyendranath Bose translation are also important because he translated the original paper of Einstein, which was written in German language, on the theory of relativity. And this was one of the major developments which brought into acquaintance to the to the people in India about the developments which was happening. J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, established the Bose Research Institute in 1917. Later in 1920, Institute of Engineers was established. Now this was a unique institution because here non-formal education in the field of engineering was provided. So in 1920, Institute of Engineers was established. In 1924, as we mentioned, the Calcutta Mathematical Society, where Ashutosh Mukherjee was the president. In 1924, Indian Chemical Society, as we mentioned, was established, and who was a well-known chemical scientist whom we talked about? Dr. Prafulla Chandra Ray. So Dr. P.C. Ray was the president of the Indian Chemical Society, established in 1924. He was a master in synthetic inorganic chemistry. In 1930, Dr. C.V. Raman was awarded Nobel Prize, and his Nobel Prize was meant for the scattering of light. He was the first non-white or the first Asian to receive a prize in the field of physics, and the major contribution was the scattering of light, and this was called as Raman effect on name of Dr. C.V. Raman. In 1931, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata was established. Now, Indian Statistical Institute was established by Dr. P.C. Mahalanobis. P.C. Mahalanobis was one of the faculties at Presidency College in Kolkata, and the initial ISI, which is the Indian Statistical Institute, grew from a laboratory at Presidency College, Kolkata, and it later expanded into a separate independent entity. In 1934, we had the development of Indian Academy of Sciences in Bangalore, and this was again the brainchild of Dr. C.V. Raman. In 1935, Indian Science New Association was established, and this was by Meghanand Saha and Dr. Prafulla Chandra Ray. In 1996, Birbal Sahani was given. Birbal Sahani was one of the paleo botanist, and his father was Ruchi Ram Sahani. Birbal Sahani was given the title of Fellow of the Royal Society of London. Royal Society of London, the title of Fellow is the highest British scientific honour which was given, and it was for the first ever time given to an Indian botanist. So the works of Birbal Sahani were highly remarkable, and later on, we had, closer to independence, numerous institutions that came into existence. For example, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, was established, and CSIR has numerous laboratories across India as of now. CSIR also conducts the National Eligibility Test for the post of various sciences, where chemical sciences, mathematical, applied sciences, physical sciences, and earth sciences are the major streams. Now, CSIR also provides fellowships like JRF, SRF, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, and the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee SPM fellowships. The next was in 1945. Tata Institute of Fundamental Research was established. So TIRF was established, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, in 1945, and this was established in Bombay. This was the first institute in India which laid its foundations on fundamental research. That means only basic research, the basic sciences, no applied sciences. So this was the institute which was established, and this institute was established by Homi Jahangir Bhabha in Bombay, which is known as the Tata Institute for Fundamental Research. In 1946, as we mentioned, Birbal Sahani was given the title of Fellow at the Royal Order, and he is on his basis, it was the Birbal Sahani Institute of Paleobotany, which was established in Lucknow in 1946. Also, at the same time, Maharashtra Association for Cultivation of Science was established in Pune, and this was by Shankar Purushottam Agharkar. Finally, at the year of independence, we have seen the establishment of again a premier institute, the Indian Institute for Nuclear Physics in Kolkata, and this was the brainchild of Meghanand Saha. So those were some of the remarkable scientists, and as we have gone through a little history about each of those, we would be covering a detailed story of major contributors of science and also their relation to the freedom struggle in the upcoming lectures. Wish you a very good luck and stay tuned for forthcoming similar lectures. Have a nice day ahead.